Hey everyone, welcome to World of Travel, the podcast. You know, it's a compliment to our series where we explore the past, present, and future of locations around the world. Now, in our podcast, we get to know the people behind all the traveling and we highlight. And today, we're talking to none other than White House foreign correspondent for NewsNation, the Robert Sherman. Thank you so much for joining us, Robert. He happens to be a world traveler as well. So it's really important to have you on to talk about the serious news that you cover when you're traveling, but also how you take them breaks and take that comp day time and PTO time to have fun in between.
What's up,
Yes,
Robert?
thank you so much for having me, and greetings from Lithuania here today. Where I'm wrapping up a couple of days here, and excited to be joining this with you all. Thank you for having me.
You're seriously talking to us right now from Lithuania. People don't understand like how much you travel. Everybody wants to be on TV. People want to be a correspondent. They don't really understand what goes into the job. So why don't you just break down for people like what your summer into fall has looked like?
I mean, it was one of those things that I was like, international travel was actually never something that I was really that interested in. And then when I started at NewsNation in early 2022, the war in Ukraine broke out. And it was my first time going to Europe in, I don't know, 10 years or something like that. I hadn't done anything since, I don't think, high school. And then all of a sudden it was, very obviously scary situation and, very dramatic situation, with everything going on in the war. But I mean, I would say one of the positive consequences personally is that I realized just how wide of a world it is. And since then, it's become a real obsession, collecting as many stamps as possible. And even more so, just trying to put the world together. The more places you travel, the more you realize you don't know the whole world. You don't know all these different cultures. It's not simple. It's not a black and white place. The more places you go, whether it's, the iconic places such as Paris or where it's, the Baltic states like I'm in right now, they all tell a different story and you walk away with a different life lesson. And so that's why it's become a personal passion of mine and really grateful to share some of that here today.
Robert, what was the first stamp on your passport?
First stamp on my passport, that would have been Australia, actually.
Wow.
I think I was 12 or 13 years old. So I was no, it would have been Italy. It would have actually been Italy. I think I was about 12 or 13 years old. And I was really into, ancient Rome and mythology. And, an opportunity came up, to see Rome, when I was younger in Pompeii. And I mean, there's a reason they call it the city eternal, the history that dates back there. And you see these old villas, someone lives in a villa and their basement goes back to the Renaissance era. And then the basement of that one goes to the ancient Roman times. And you're like, wow, you talk about American history and how old that is. And then you see this firsthand. I mean, it really blew my mind that anything like that
Yeah.
could exist. And so that was really the first step for me.
Yeah, that's something that I always think about too when we're shooting World of Travel and going to these places and seeing just how old these places are. Like when we were in Istanbul and knowing that Alexander the Great literally fought here, and these are the gates of Alexander the Great, and there was 10,000, no, it was 100,000 bodies from this war that were right here in this pit. It just blew my mind. It's just like for us to be only 300 years old, 300 to 400 years old, and then for that to be 10,000 years old, and people were here living and doing their thing. It blows my mind.
Unbelievable, unbelievable. And you see that all over Europe. I mean, I just came from Kyiv, Ukraine a couple weeks ago. We kind of forget, that part of Europe and how much history is there. But that's a city that's 15, 1600 years old, depending on, which source of origin you look at there. You see that all over the place. So, I mean, it really puts into perspective, just we're really just a small speck on the timeline, when you think about the history of humanity.
That gave me like that Neil deGrasse Tyson vibe when he showed us just how insignificant we all are. I think I
Right.
saw a Netflix special where it's like,
Right.
here's humankind. That's kind of like what you just did for me.
Right,
We
speck of sand.
Exactly. We're really like so small. Like, you got to make a big life and knowing that, there's so much life that will happen before and after you. You spent a lot of time, like you said, one of your first places to visit was in Italy. You spent a lot of time in Europe just because of your travels and coverage. I know you were covering the Pope Francis that passed away earlier this year. But you also have spent, if people are watching season 1, we spent a lot of time in Greece. That was one of our episodes. So you've been to Greece also. So we wanted to compare some notes here. Like, because I took my mom for her 60th birthday, which is how the trip even came about. Every one of our episodes comes about randomly, or like we meet someone, they're like, you should come here, because we want to go everywhere eventually. But Greece came about because my mom insisted, so we brought our whole family along. But you know, it was one of those places that once you go, we got the bug, and now we made friends, and we went to Mykonos, Naxos, and Athens.
Yep.
And that was our trip, and we want to go back to each place. With Mykonos, I mean, staying next to Lindsay Lohan's bar was one of the top moments of the trip for us. It was just classic.
There you go.
It was
There you
time.
go. I mean, that island Mykonos, it never sleeps. You know, so I'm sure you guys had a blast.
We
there.
actually didn't. We was family time. You know, we got to hang out. But trust me, it's on my calendar to go do a proper party in Mykonos.
Yeah.
So tell us about your time in Greece. What did you do?
Yeah, you know, so I was actually just there a couple of weeks ago in Santorini, and I mean, I think that Santorini is a very special place. I've never seen a destination in which the whole island shuts down to watch the sunset every night. And you don't think about that. I mean, everyone, you know, appreciates a sunset, but you see, I mean, people plan their dinners around the sunset. It's like, okay, we got to be done with 15 minutes early so that we can walk over here and go see the sunset, because it is truly spectacular. I mean, people don't realize, but you know, I mean, Santorini is an island, but it's on a volcano, so you're heavily elevated there.
Yeah.
And you just look out at the Aegean and you see the sun setting, and it's almost a clear sky every day, and it just, you know, erupts, you know, with these fiery rays from the sun. I mean, it is a unbelievable thing to watch every night. But everyone stops. Everyone wants to see the sunset. That one is truly special. Different than Mykonos, you know. I mean, I would say a much more quiet experience than Mykonos. I mean, that's definitely a place that lends itself to taking a significant other, for example. But you can still have plenty of fun on the island, and you could still, you know, with your college friends, still go there, whatever you want to do. But I found Santorini to be a very, very special place.
Yeah, it's funny you say that. You know, talking about how everybody stops down. That was something that we experienced too during the episode in Greece. Was we had like a proper dinner with a friend, and it was like, you know, me and the chef. We got a chance to hang out, got a chance to have some fun together and cook together. But we all sat down and danced around the table literally all night. Yeah, and we watched the sunset, and it was just like, I just remember like the ocean breeze, smelling the ocean, and the sunset and the mountains and the horizon. It's like literally looking at a picture. Like you just looking at a picture from a beautiful picture on your wall, but actually being in the picture. That's one thing.
Absolutely. I mean, the stunning landscapes that you see there. I mean, there's a reason that people swear by it. And I thought that, you know, what you mentioned about the bug of Greece, you know, the problem is that there's so many islands there. And, you know, once you see 2 or 3, it's like, what am I missing? You know, I mean, like now I have to go see another island, you know, some of the less commercialized islands.
Well, that's how we got to
one
Naxos.
of my best friends. Yes. I mean, that's what I've heard. That I've never been personally. Milos, another one, you know, which is really beautiful. I mean, you can really make it, you know, whatever you want it to be. And I mean, you could go back to Greece every year and have a completely different experience again and again.
Yeah, and I think we were talking about how photogenic the entire island is by itself. It's like a living painting. But you got to talk about Santorini and be honest with folks. The amount of people that are crowded on that, I don't know if you went in the midst of the summer. I mean, you think it's this empty island because the photos, it just shows one individual blue and white landscapes and like nothingness. But then there's like 1,000 people all over the place walking. It's crowded streets. And not in your area, it's like a very much like a sanctuary when you get one of those little blue and white houses. No one's bothering you with your pool. It's very serene. But when you're walking down, let's say to have dinner, the one road, if you know what I'm talking about, that goes to like the end, it's very crowded. And if you had a camera there and a pan to how crowded, I think people would be surprised if you're going during the high season.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, and this year there were a couple of weeks where it was actually a little quiet on Santorini because they had all these earthquakes there. And so I actually just happened to be there, when all that was going on. So it was considered a low season. And you would still see, just how many people are on this island, especially sunset time, because that's when everyone is jammed together. So that's the only thing, with Santorini to be wary of is there are a lot of people there. The other thing is, we all want to save dollars and cents wherever we can. And what surprised me the most is that the place where you actually spend the most money on somewhere like Santorini are the taxi transfer services.
Oh
yeah.
my
Because,
gosh, they just give you any
if
price.
you go 10 minutes, less than a mile, it is $50 like
Right.
that. And it's like, that's more than an entree, at most restaurants that are there.
Yeah.
So, that would be the advice that I would give is, try and strategically stay somewhere where you can eliminate as many of those taxi rides as possible because they do add up. And that's where I found that, you can really get smoked if you're not careful.
The good, yeah, exactly.
Okay, that kind of answers that was my next question was, are you an Airbnb guy or a hotel guy? What do you like to stay? What do you typically do?
My strategy is always like limit cost as much as possible. And so, I try and limit the cost on the hotel. And I would rather, if I'm going to spend the money, spend it on experiences, whether that's, like being on a boat for a day or, going to a museum or, whatever it may be based upon the location. I try and limit the hotel as much as possible because, there are so many amazing places that you can go for breakfast, lunch, and dinner there that, you could potentially save money on the hotel and then, have your splurge elsewhere. That's always my strategy. Some people swear by the hotel and think that that's the most important thing.
I think I've
It's just
become
kind of to each
that
their-
exact opposite of like I used to be like four of my friends, college friends, to a bed, whatever, motel, whatever. You know what I mean? Like I used to be real ridiculous, and now I'm like, if the bed, Colin knows, I go do a pillow check. When I get into like room, it has to be the exact thickness. Like I need to have a good sleep, otherwise, like I just told him we're in Airbnb right now, and I'm like, no, this is trash. He's like, this is a beautiful Airbnb. Trash is so extreme. I'm like, the pillow's so flat, like just not,
She takes my pillow. It's like, you stole my pillow, and starts smacking it and put the pillow. It's crazy. Do you do so when you're going on the trips? Do you do like a tour, or do you do your own research and then go see the stuff for yourself?
I used to try and do it all on my own, and that actually changed in Egypt. When I went to go to the Great Pyramids, and I was like, no, I want to do the authentic experience here. I'm not going to do the TripAdvisor thing or anything like that. The next thing I know, I ended up, like in a perfume shop where they're selling, these tours, and then like the door closes behind you and nobody knows where you are. I'm like, oh, this is not good. I should have definitely booked the TripAdvisor one, and I ended up getting swindled in Giza. So ever since that moment, I pretty much swear by TripAdvisor.
Yes.
Or anything with good reviews. I'm not going to make that mistake again.
We've really relied on like Get Your Guide. That's been a savior for us.
Yeah.
Like it will, or especially when you're traveling. I don't know if you travel with your parents ever or anybody older than you. There's always mass chaos and confusion if I don't have a detailed, like almost rundown style itinerary and send it to them with links.
Totally.
And I'm like, okay, instead of stressing myself out, let Get Your Guide do it. They email you, they send the times, the location the day before, remind you. Everybody download the app. So that's been a savior for me because Colin and I are kind of very independent. Like we kind of like to figure it out on our own. Go to the bazaar, get our hands dirty, and get lost there. But sometimes when you have more than just yourself or you're organizing for the group, it's way easier to just plan something like that.
And that's a good point about having a tour and the fact that you can get swindled because a lot of times these tour guides already know the guys that you're going to meet,
Right?
And they can speak the language, they know the prices, and that cuts out a lot of the things like people trying to overcharge you, which happens everywhere. As soon as they find out you're American, they're like, oh yeah,
Blink, ding, ding,
$10,000 for powder,
100%.
Yeah.
It's the double-edged sword, of being an American overseas is that on the one hand, I've had very positive experiences most everywhere that I go is that people, do like Americans, but on the other hand, they like Americans because they know that Americans tend to spend more money than, say, European counterparts or something like that. So all of a sudden, that $10 taxi ride is a $20 taxi ride, when it's someone with a US passport in the car. Happens all the time, happens most everywhere I've been. It's just another reason to be cautious and wary and do your homework. I mean, doing your homework before you go somewhere can save you headaches and a few dollars in the long run when you're there.
Absolutely. So I think we buried the lead a little bit. I found out something right before I walked on set today. You've been on Air Force One?
I have. Yeah, I have. That's definitely the coolest plane that I've ever been on. It was earlier this year. One of President's trips from Washington D.C. to Florida, and it's I'm just trying to think. It's like, what did they serve? They served like lobster tacos,
Wow.
steak and pasta. We weren't cheated. We were definitely not cheated on the flight.
Yeah, work is hard, but somebody
But
got to do it.
That's like taking,
yeah,
I'm not trying to make this political at all, but there's this whole thing going on with the taco for President Trump. He literally took that and ran with it and said, look, I'm not a taco. I'm serving lobster tacos on Air Force One.
There we go.
yeah.
So
That was a
Kolyn,
good connection.
he
Wait,
was
no,
like,
Sharon,
what's it look like? He was,
talk about.
Yeah.
Sharon is Karen. What does Air Force One look like? I gotta know.
most people are never going to get on there.
Yeah, what is
Robert.
it?
So
What
you have
do
the
you
inside
see?
scoop.
Come
I
on.
might not ever get on there. Like, come on, break it down.
No, it's just like, I mean, we only get to see a small portion of Air Force One, the area that was given to the press. So, I couldn't tell you what like the president's quarters are like or anything like that, but, the press cabin was like you walk inside of, like the lavatory, and it's like, it's all gold and it's all decorated and everything says Air Force One on it. The seats are in like a 2x2 formation. The kind of like a first class seat on like most domestic airlines I'd compare it to. They give you a little card that says, Mr. Sherman, thank you for flying aboard Air Force One. I mean, everything says Air Force One on it, like the napkins,
Did you keep
that
something?
say, like
Did,
served aboard the presidential plane. I mean, it's cool. It's
what
it's
did
a
you
really
keep?
unique
What did you
experience.
keep? What did you keep? I know there's something on your desk that
No
said.
comment on that. No
Don't
comment
comment.
on that. I may have snagged a napkin. I may have snagged. That's all open.
That's too funny.
It's also like that that you're probably, with all the FAA incidents, and I'm sure you've talked about it or been on a report in the middle of a show talking about it. People have been having their eyes glued to the FAA this year. You probably are the most confident you possibly could be on Air Force One. All the reinforcement they have to make sure that that plane gets to where it needs to go safely and promptly. That's the most on time, probably organized flight you can take. I even saw the recent story about somebody, Spirit Airlines was in the way, and they're like, get off your iPad, screaming at the Spirit Airlines pilot because he was getting too close to Air Force One.
Don't be that guy.
Don't be that guy.
Don't be that guy. You can be the guy. Yo, what?
Yeah. I've had the experience of flying into the exact same airport, in Palm Beach on Air Force One, and then, as one of the commoners, just flying a commercial flight while Air Force One is there. And, this is the difference. When you're on Air Force One, you don't wait for anybody. You go immediately to the front of the line. Every other plane clears out of the way. But then, the counter to that is that when I was in Palm Beach once and Air Force One was there, a flight attendant came up and said, Air Force One is here. We're going to be sitting here for hours, and it's just like all these planes got delayed, mine included. I'm like, shoe is on the other foot now. Now this is not as fun, having to wait, but that's how it goes. The president, his time is valuable. He's got places to be, and
Must be nice.
so I've seen that sword cut both ways.
Well, Robert Sherman, we could talk to you for hours. I'm sure we're going to talk to you a lot more because you traveled all over the globe, literally, and we have to compare notes on so many different places. But thank you for taking the time out all the way from Lithuania to join us on World of Travel, the podcast.
Oh, well, thank you so much for having me, and I hope we get to do this again.
For sure. We'll have you back. So that's really cool. I mean, I guess I always wanted to know what Air Force One looked like, but I never really asked anybody who's been.
I know. I wonder what the bathroom. I mean the.
He said they were drifting gold.
The bedroom, like the president's bedroom. I bet it's like huge. It's got to be.
Maybe we can do a World of Travel. White House, if you're listening, you can invite us. We're not going to go anywhere. We don't want to slow anybody up. We just want to see, what are the quarters like? Where are you sleeping at? All that kind of stuff. Thanks for joining us, guys, again. We have to wrap it up, but we're looking forward to talking to more people, more guests, and having more podcasts about all the places that you love. And if there's anywhere you think we should go as we're in the planning stages for season 3, let us know, because we have our eyes wide open. Some ideas that have crossed our desks have been, Abu Dhabi, Australia.
You gotta go to Italy.
Yeah, you've never been to Italy.
You gotta go to Italy.
Let us know. Let us know in the comments. See you later.